All right, good evening. How's everybody?
Good evening.
I am Tammy Williams, and I am a member of the Linden Opioid Eradication Council or Initiative. And we're here this evening so that we can discuss the eradication of opioid abuse, and opioid addiction in our beloved community. Joining me in this endeavor is Talisa Coleman. Just walked away. All right. We're going to allow her to give us a little bit of background. She is the Linden Opioid lead for this initiative, and I'll give her an opportunity to just share a little bit of background, how we came together, started working on this initiative a few months ago, and what our goals and objectives are. And then I'll come back and talk about why we're here today, introduce our panelists that have arrived, introduce our other panelists who have yet to arrive, and we'll go from there. All right, so we probably need some bathrooms. Let's try that one.
Good evening, I'm Talisa Coleman. I, again, am the lead consultant. My background is mental health. I think I'm just...
Turn stuff loud.
Yes.
Let's move it and so that.
My background is mental health. I was a clinical social worker at a state psychiatric hospital for over 11 years. I am now a director at social services. I am so happy to be part of this initiative to bring awareness and support to the city of Linden. I know that there's great work happening, speaking to our ad hoc committee, and we're looking to bridge and support the initiatives already in place to strengthen it, to bring awareness to the residents. I have some information that I also want to share. We've looked at some data for the city of Linden, and I think that's important information to share so that you kind of have an idea of what we're facing in the community. And this was a great opportunity for us to bring experienced individuals on different levels to discuss the works that they do and maybe suggestions and helpful ways of addressing the need of the opioid addiction in our communities. So I am a little disappointed, I must say, because during the National Night Out, I met an individual who is a peer advocate recovering over 10 years who agreed to be part of the panel. This is his name here. And unfortunately, he's caught up at work and not sure what time he's going to make it, and we don't want to hold anyone up. But he captivated me. He had a lot of questions about the initiative, and I thought that he would be a great asset to this conversation due to his experience and finding helpful ways. I think it's very important for us to talk to the people that lived it, experienced it, and made it out of such an addiction. Unfortunately, he's not here, so I'm sitting here in place as a panelist. Okay, so.
And we also have, I'm sure, is everybody from Linden? Everybody lives here in Linden. Excellent. So, not you, Mr. Sapp, not you, you're a panelist, but our guests in the audience who have given us their time this evening to come and talk about this sensitive subject. But you all do know you're a captain of the police department, yes? No? So let me take a moment to introduce you to Captain Abdul Williams, who was first hired by the Linden Police Department in July of 2001. That's 24 years of service. As a patrolman, he was on the school resource and DARE officer for 5 years. He also worked with local at-risk youth as a coach and a mentor of 2 championship teams in the Union County Prosecutor's Office Cops and Kids Basketball League. As a commander of the Linden Police Department Narcotics Bureau, he has been recognized and has focused jointly on enforcement, education, and prevention to fight the growing opioid crisis. He has worked tirelessly with the New Jersey State Attorney General's office to join the Project Medicine Dropbox initiative. Residents have safely disposed of thousands of pounds of prescription medication using the Dropbox that's located in the lobby of the Linden Police Department or at the mobile Dropbox locations since the program came into fruition in 2016. Later, as a lieutenant in the Juvenile Aid Bureau, Captain worked closely to strengthen the partnership between the police and the Linden schools. He has successfully advocated for and acquired funding for Linden's first police youth academy that was hosted in the summer of 2018. Captain has also been a statewide leader in the field of crisis intervention. As the Department Crisis Intervention Team Coordinator, he has hosted a series of annual events to improve relationships between police, mental health providers, and those receiving services. Those efforts were formally recognized by CIT of New Jersey, who in 2017 selected the Linden Police Department as the Program of the Year. Due largely to these initiatives, which include an annual CIT barbecue and an Easter egg hunt for children with his initiatives, which included an annual CIT, I'm reading the same thing. Developmental disabilities, children with developmental disabilities. Captain was awarded CIT Coordinator of the Year in 2020. Captain also serves as the coordinator of the Union County CIT and as New Jersey Police Training Commission certified CIT instructor. He has provided de-escalation and CIT to hundreds of police officers. Now I'm gonna ask you, what does CIT, what is that an acronym for?
Crisis Intervention Team. Basically, it's a 40-hour program that takes it's a 40-hour training program that takes law enforcement, mental health workers, and other stakeholders in the community. It basically forms a team so that we all know what we're doing and to better help those with mental illness.
And so I met Captain for the first time just about a few minutes ago. I am a councilwoman in West Orange. I'm also a licensed real estate broker, and I'm also the founder and president of the West Orange Stop Suicide Advocacy Coalition. And we work to reduce and minimize the incidence of suicide and suicide attempts in West Orange and beyond. I have worked closely in all of those capacities with several police departments. And I have to tell you, in the past 5 minutes that I made this introduction with Captain, that he is indeed humble, true, and sincere. He first stated that this is not about him, that this is about sharing information and the people that work in his department. So with that, I just want you to know that you have a wonderful captain leading the Linden Police Department and this intervention team. All right, introducing also Mr. William Sapp, who is a seasoned CADC, and I'm gonna ask you to tell us what that means.
Certified Drug and Alcohol Counselor.
There you go, certified drug and alcohol counselor with over 3 decades of experience in the field. Skilled at completing client-patient biopsychological assessments, developing relapse prevention plans, and providing individual group therapy, knowledgeable on various subjects relating to practice, currently focused on subjects like harm reduction, spirituality and recovery, and trauma-informed treatment. His approach to counseling is patient-client education and informed decision-making. Since 2013, he's been a part of co-occurring team at Greystone Park Psychiatric Hospital, and prior to that, he served as the program director at the Challenge program in Patterson for 5 years. He was part of a team that was contracted to provide substance counseling, treatment, and education to paroles for the New Jersey Division of Parole, to parolees. He was also tasked with opening and running a detox unit in Meadowlands Hospital for 2.5 years. Joining us, but stuck in traffic right now, is Malik Carey, who is the founder and CEO of the Family Healing Center, which was previously located in Livingston, New Jersey, but just relocated to a facility in West Orange, New Jersey. Malik is building an earnest passion for wellness and commitment and offering the highest quality of professional health care to families in need. He holds an MS in organizational leadership from Nyack College and a BS in sports management and a minor in religious studies from Seton Hall University. He is also the former COO and vice president of the King Movement, which is a national men's ministry that he helped create alongside, if you all have watched ESPN, sports journalist Chris Broussard. Malik has also been involved in an Overcomers program, which is a 12-step Christian-based empowerment group that is designed to promote and maintain disengagement from substance abuse and other maladaptive addictions. So that is our panel for this evening. Let's get started and jump right into this, and I'll allow whoever so will and has the pleasure. What is opioid addiction? Who would like to answer that one? Just grab the mic. Go ahead, Mr. Sapp.
Mr. Sapp, please use the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Opioid addiction is a physical addiction to any of the opioid-based medications, Demerol, Dilaudid, Percocet, Percodan, and it can include heroin, which is a street drug. More times than not, it's something that's prescribed by a doctor, and people are not taking it the way they're supposed to, and next thing they know, they have a problem.
All right. Is there any age that is too young for opioid addiction?
No. No.
And is there any age that's too old for opioid addiction?
No.
So opioid addiction impacts all people at any given age during any time in their life.
Correct.
Okay, you want to expand on that?
I'm going to give an example. You have kids that are playing sports. They're playing organized sports in school. They get injured. They go to the doctor. They're prescribed a course of treatment, physical therapy, but they're also prescribed medication to deal with the pain. They learn to love the medication because of the way it makes them feel. Now the doctor goes back and he's only allowed to prescribe a certain amount of medication. They can't get that prescribed medication anymore. Now they turn to opioids from the streets, which is usually heroin, or they get pills from somebody out in the community.
In Linden, Captain, what is, based on statistics, your incidence of opioid crisis?
Well, the opioid crisis, it hits us with petty crimes. Over the last several years, our overdoses have gone up. But because of education and resources now, Narcan available, every officer in the Linden Police Department that's on patrol carries Narcan with them.
What is Narcan? Does everyone know what Narcan is? Tell us what Narcan is.
Well, Narcan is a drug that basically reverses the overdose. The only thing is a lot of people believe that Narcan is the cure-all. It will bring you out of an overdose, but you can slip back in. We recommend that everyone that is Narcan go to the hospital. Unfortunately, many of them can refuse medical attention. And at that point, we're not sure what happens because they're adults and they can refuse medical attention. But that's what Narcan does, and we had the forewithal to start equipping our officers with it.
Is there any type of specific training that is necessary for your officers before they administer Narcan?
Yes, we do train our officers. Our officers are probably the best trained officers in the county, and I would say the state. So we made sure that the training was done prior to us equipping all of our officers with it.
And because Narcan is also a drug that is available and distributed to the regular public and population, are there any concerns with just your general public administering Narcan?
I'm sorry,
Concerns with the general public? You just indicated that officers receive training, but for the general public, it is something that can be obtained.
I believe so. They are able to get it. I believe the package shows you how to use it. Our training is done a lot because of police liability. Right? If I don't train my officers, and the liability on the department and the city is out there. So we do a lot of our training to reduce liability. But it's almost foolproof. There's no harm if you improperly administer Narcan. So it's not like that Narcan is going to kill someone or injure someone any further. But police liability, that's why we overtrain.
So I say that just because sometimes I have Narcan in my home. I have a 27-year-old and a 21-year-old. Neither of my kids have ever had any issues with drugs, but you never know who your friends are. And because they are of the age, I made sure that Narcan was something that I had in my home, and I also advised my children, if you are ever in the presence of someone and this happens, this is a product that can reverse the overdose. Any other comments? Anybody want to?
I think it's a good time to share the overdose data that we collected here. So in 2023, there was 86 incidents and 11 deaths. In 2024, there was 58 incidents and 8 deaths. In 2025, from January to June of 2025, there was 24 incidents and 5 deaths. So the trend is that so far for 2025, although there's less incidents, there's more incidents of death. And so I think that's important information, and also want to encourage the training of Narcan for the community as well.
And I think when we've had a few of the community events, National Night Out, we received from the Linden Health Department Narcan and did distribute that at our table. So you can also check with the Linden Health Department if you believe that it might be something that you should have in your home, so that you can have that readily available.
Yeah, I know.
Fentanyl strips. Okay. And does everybody know what fentanyl strips are? So fentanyl strips, let's talk about that a little bit. Fentanyl strips are testing strips so that you can test the drugs that you receive. What we all know is that while cannabis has been legalized in the state of New Jersey, everybody does not go to a dispensary to purchase their cannabis. Cannabis is still sold on the street corners illegally, if you will, because it is a regulated drug now. So with that and the accessibility of people purchasing drugs that are not regulated, fentanyl is an ingredient that is used to cut those drugs. And fentanyl is extremely deadly. And because of that, you are able to test those drugs and make sure the presence of fentanyl isn't in there if you use those strips. And it does save lives. Join in. We're gonna make this a family conversation, y'all. This is a room of where we're going to exchange thoughts and educations. We also are sensitive and aware that opioid addiction is a stigmatized conversation, but we want to be family here, and if there are questions that you have that we may not have gotten to, or if there are further questions or information that you want as one of the panelists or even myself is speaking, please don't hesitate to just jump right in. You don't even need to raise your hand. We're here as a family so that when we know more and we can do better. All right? Is that okay? All right.
Full disclosure, there's something that we don't talk about a lot. We are supposed to teach our kids the difference between right and wrong. And I grew up in a generation where my parents said, well, I need to know who your friends are. Now, We don't know who our kids' friends are, and we don't know what they're doing. And woe be it that your child is somewhere and they're doing something, and the next thing you know, you get that phone call that brings tears to your eyes and rocks you to your knees. And I have a 34-year-old daughter, and I tell her all the time, I said, baby, whatever you're gonna do, make sure that you know exactly who you're with and what they're doing. Because whatever they're doing, it's gonna impact upon you. And so we need to know our kids, we need to know our kids' friends. And the drugs are out there, they're out there. Why would someone put fentanyl and weed? And that would be always the question, why would they put fentanyl and weed? They don't know, they don't care. I mean, there's no label of ingredients on the drugs out there. So you never know what you're gonna get. For me, it's just a bag of tricks. Whatever's in there is what you're gonna get. And woe be it if you get a wrong bag. Just that simple.
All right. You have anything you want to add? Not yet, not yet? All right, Captain. Well, what we don't want is for our computer to go on. All right, so while I'm in the process of booting my computer back up, so we are noticing that there's an increase in death incidents in the Linden community. One of the things that, as far as the data is concerned, we try to identify and extrapolate if there are any pockets in the Linden community where these incidents are continuing to happen. Certainly, we know that our Linden Police Department is specifically looking at that information and data because they want to be able to eliminate that. And if there are areas where we see a tremendous increase in the deaths, that's how they will target their enforcement. So if you could just speak, Captain, to what you all have done as a department to try and identify areas that have increased activity and what your department is doing to curtail that.
Well, there's but so much I can talk about the plans of narcotics because I can't give up how they do business. However, we do use data, as the data that Talisa was just talking about, and we will find out areas where it appears as though either the deaths are happening or if there's a correlation between certain type of drug. Because drug dealers tend to stamp their drugs, and if we notice that there's a certain stamp that's causing an excess amount of overdoses, then we will start targeting that. We'll try to find out where that supply is coming from so that we can eliminate that individual. When I say that, I gotta be careful with my words as far as that goes.
It will be televised.
So, so that they can actually target where those drugs are coming from. Because if there's a batch out there that's bad, or someone who tends to use too much fentanyl, and it's so highly addictive, and that's why they put it even in the marijuana. If I put fentanyl in marijuana, guess what? You're going to be addicted to my marijuana. You're not going to go to that dispensary. You're not going to go to that drug dealer. You're going to come to me. So that's basically how we like to take a look at it and target. If we are finding that there's something out there, that there's a strain or folds of heroin that are actually causing the overdoses, we like to hone in on that so that we can target that individual.
And I'm gonna, so thank you, Malik, for joining us. You're gonna have your seat right here. Let's welcome Malik. Let's give him a little bit of a round of applause for getting here, struggling through the traffic. We appreciate that. We appreciate that. So your department handles enforcement, and then the health department, how do you all correlate with the health department and policing?
Well, unfortunately for me, I have been non-operational for a number of years now. as you spoke about, I'm in professional standards at this point in time, which is internal affairs and training. How we've been dealing with, from my perspective with CIT, basically just trying to find out more resources, because we also help with the homeless and all. And a lot of our homeless are also opioid addicted as well. So that's making that connection and finding those resources, because it's our boots on the ground that are actually going to be dealing with the homeless on a regular basis. Having more resources, because we have a connection with the county's homeless outreach. However, 1 or 2 resources isn't enough, because there's several homeless people we deal with on a regular basis, and they may say no to the first 10 people and resources we offer, but there may be one that latches on and they actually are willing to then get help. So basically that's how we would deal and cooperate with the health department.
So, yes.
And another thing that Linden is doing is they are working with Trinitas in the LEAD department, which stands for Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion. I'm the director of the LEAD program out of Trinitas, and now Linden is working with us, and we provide resources to people that are suffering from opioid use disorder, and some of those resources are helping them to obtain housing and trying to let them tell us what they need so that they're not making these decisions to continue using. We don't require them to be sober. We work with them, we meet them where they're at, we do boots on the ground, case management, and we just try to work with them to focus on harm reduction as well, because we know that sometimes for people to live sober, it's just too much. That's just not gonna be their reality. So we try to meet them where they are, but just try to make sure that they're safe, make sure that there's public safety in the community, and fostering like positive relationships with the police officers, with the people in the community, and the services that are available to them.
Thank you. So Captain, you touched on homelessness, and so what we also know is that our homeless population is a population that is very addicted to opioid abuse. So, or just addicted to opioids and other drugs as well. How do you remove the element of drug addiction from someone who is living on the street and refuses services? And maybe that might not be your question, maybe that might be someone else's question as well. But when you already have compounding negative interests, how do you help those people?
Well, one thing that we found is that a lot of the homeless that are opioid addicted are also suffer from co-occurring disorder. So that there's a mental health component as well. We're not sure which came first, the chicken or the egg, whether or not the mental illness is, the drug use is helping the mental illness, or vice versa. The whole thing is we try to get them assistance, we try to get them resources. The biggest thing for us, when I first came on 24 years ago, how we dealt with the homeless was, guess what? We would say that they either are crazy and have to go to the hospital, so we would involuntarily transport, or, and this is how, just 24 years ago, we were living in the Stone Age, send them to the county jail. There's help at the county jail. And unfortunately, I didn't learn for 10 years. Well, 10 years when I started this CIT program with John Parham and Maureen O'Brien. When we started it, part of the program was site visits. We would visit the county jail, we would visit Trinitas New Point campus, and we would visit Bridgeway Rehabilitation Center, their partial care. And taking that trip to the county jail and walking through the medical unit and seeing that this person's in a green turtle suit under constant observation, and the guys that are in there, that wasn't help. But that's what we were told as far as law enforcement, because guess what? We were warriors back then. We weren't guardians. We were just, hey, we clean up the streets one way or another. And that did not help those people at all. So we've changed how we do things. We also have what's now known as the Arrive Together program. If you're not aware of the Arrive Together program, it's a program supported by the AG's office. And basically what it does is it pairs a law enforcement officer with a mental health screener. Now, they will respond to all mental health calls. And the officer wears not a police uniform, he wears a more softer uniform, because we understand that our uniforms can spark anxiety within people with mental illness. And we try to go at it together. The officer's there to make sure that the scene is safe, and that screener is there just in case the person has to be involuntarily transported, because the only way we can involuntarily transport is if the person's a danger to self, property, or others. Without that, you would need a mental health screener to say that the person needs further screening, and it's an involuntary transport. That can be done by force. We try not to do it by force, but we can at that point in time. So it's a softer approach to dealing with a person with mental illness. There's not always a mental health call, so they supplement their time doing follow-ups. Follow-ups that have been recently released from Trinitas, and follow-ups from the officers in patrol. If they deal with someone that they believe needs future follow-up, they don't need to go right then and there. The Arrive Together program will go there, offer more resources, make sure that the person's staying in their programs, make sure that the people are staying medicine compliant, which is a big problem, as all of you on the panel know. So that's the way we would handle that.
Thank you. And so, as he mentioned, the Arrive program through the Attorney General's office, I will give my shameless plug that West Orange was the first township in the state of New Jersey that did a ride-along program back in 2020. It was a pilot program that was funded with a grant, and my community in West Orange has also continued that program, and it is now the statewide model for treating at-risk policing mental health. So thank you for continuing that and expanding that here in Linden. And now I want to give Mr. Malik Carey an opportunity to just speak about the actual treatment with the Family Healing Center and his engagement and involvement in treatment. I'd like to hear some words from him.
Hi guys, how we doing? Sorry I'm late, traffic was just crazy. So we run an IOP partial care and OP clinic, and I've been in the mental health field for about 10 years, well, a little longer than that, 15, but on and on private practice for about the last 10 years. And as you said, even 10 years ago, I mean, it was just becoming a problem. I mean, it's always been a problem in our communities, but when it hit the other, it became a real problem, right? And so it had to change because it started hitting the other. And the other was the 30 to 55-year-old Caucasian male. And it became an epidemic, where before it was, policing, lock them up and all of that. And now we come up and we say, now we have to really start treating, because I started seeing the other. Before it was not the black and brown. The black and brown communities always faced opioid addiction. They've always faced the heroin addiction. And now we have to start treating it differently because it started facing the other community. So let's be real, I want to just really say that. And so we had to learn how to treat it differently, because before it was put them on Suboxone, put them on methadone, and what we said at our center basically was, before we do all that, let's really try to get them off of it. I don't want you on any drugs. So, I mean, if we have to do it for a minute, we'll do it. And we really use Suboxone more than methadone. I don't believe in methadone, that's just me personally, because we're just treating another drug. But with the Suboxone, at least we can kind of wean them off the Suboxone treatment and get them the help they need. And so we take a lot of the Medicaid, Medicare, and all of the other majors. And so what we see, because we're located in West Orange, we were in Livingston for 9.5 years, is we really do see the other. And so, you know, a lot of them are working, they're not homeless, right? They're working, they're going to work, they have careers, and they're really, so there's a incentive for them to get off, and really work towards it. So, you know, again, with an IOP partial care, we work a lot with RWJ Barnabas Health. We work with, I know you guys said Trinity Hospital, we also work with North Beth Israel and Claremont Hospital, which both Claremont Hospital has the voluntary unit and involuntary unit. And so a lot of times when we get the call, it's to really take them through long-term treatment. Most of them are either coming out of a 30, 60, 90-day treatment facility, coming to us. If they can't, then they'll go through a 16-week partial care program, which is 16 to 20 hours a week. And then, so we're treating them, we're trying to get them back to work, we're trying to get them functioning again. So we deal a lot with the other. You know, I don't really see the homeless population more than I see the Caucasian male, female working, trying to get back on the society, trying to get their jobs back. They have, a lot of them have careers who can afford it. A lot of them come through, they started with the Oxycontin, they started that way. When it ran out, they had to turn to the heroin because they couldn't, and now we got this crisis. And so that's what we deal with on.
Another question that I want to pivot and talk about is the cost of opioid addiction. So we can look at it from several different avenues. We can look at the fact that it's expensive. You usually, at some point, lose your job, lose your family. So when you look at cost, it's not just the cost of actually obtaining the drug, but the negative impact that it has on you as an individual, short-term and long-term. So let's talk about the cost of addiction. What are some of the things, if I'm a parent and my child is starting to become addicted, what are some of the things that I'm gonna look for?
So, I mean, when we're dealing with an addict, a lot of costs don't mean anything. We can tell them every day, death, jail, institution, right? We tell them from the door. You know, as a clinician, my clinicians tell, I mean, these are your 3 items, or recovery, right? And so when we're looking at addiction, we have to look at addiction from a way of, addiction doesn't care, right? It's not the addict, it's not the person, it's the addiction. And we have to penetrate that addiction. And there, you know, the only way out is, you know, alcoholism is a spiritual experience. The only way out of addiction is help, right? They're addicted for a reason, right? And so when we're looking at addiction, we can talk about opioid addiction, we can talk about whatever the addiction is. We have to be able to treat the addiction. We have to treat the whole person. We have to treat the whole family, right? And so we do it in a holistic way. We do get the family involved. If it's a kid, listen, you know, we're telling the parents, hey, you may have to show tough love, right? That means you may have to kick this kid out of your home if it's costing you, right? To get that kid to their bottom. Because the only way to addiction, you know, we don't want you to see bottom. We really want to help, but we have to treat it. We want to treat it in a spiritual manner. We want to treat it in a holistic manner. We want to look at the family dynamic. You know, all of those things play a part. You know, we hear, oh, we come from some perfect family. No, you don't, right? And we're going to get to the reason why. And maybe the mom and dad, we've seen it on the parent side where the mom and dad have given these kids everything, you know, to try to save them. And we have to say, no, mom, we may have to take a step back here. We may have to look at it differently. Maybe this kid has to fall, right? maybe you may have to do that kind of work to let this kid go to see. Maybe it may be a jail cell for a month, a year, or whatever. Maybe it will be something. And so it's such a dynamic and such a sticky situation when we're dealing with addiction. And there's no one size fits all with addiction, right? It's just not. Right? Every person is different, every situation is different. And so when we look at addiction, and especially the opioid, what in the 80s it was crack cocaine, whatever it's been, it's just been this thing where we have to deal with, it's the treatment of addiction, right? Mind, body, spirit.
I was meeting with a doctor today, and this is very profound. He was talking about prescribing opiates, and he's got patients that are coming in that have been injured and they need opiates, and he asked one guy, he said, if you go 4 hours without your pill, what happens? And he says, I start getting sick. This was the first time this kid, 25 years old, had actually said that he started getting sick when he doesn't have his pills. This was the beginning. That was somewhere along the line, the doctor educated him. One of the big issues that we deal with, and I hear it all the time, that they're missing something in their life. I'm missing something. Well, what are you missing? I don't know. But why are you using heroin? Why are you using crack? Why are you drinking? I'm missing something. So why don't you put down the drugs and let's find out what you're missing, right? We have to develop a relationship, and which is the hardest thing in the world to do, is develop a relationship with these people that are using. But for me, I go back and I think about it. I said, you know what? That could be my mother. That could be my aunt, that could be my sister, that could be my daughter, that could be my wife, that could be me. And how would I want to be treated? And I don't look at them as they're gum stuck on the bottom of my shoe. They're people first, and they're people first who have a problem. And so what we do is we're looking at them and we're asking them questions. How can I help you? I'm not just going to throw out a life preserver to save you. I'm going to ask you, how can I help you? And then I'm going to listen. I'm going to actually listen. I don't want to hear what they're going to say. I want to listen to what they're saying. And more times than not, when they start talking, stuff really starts to come out, and that's where you can start helping them, when they start helping themselves.
So a lot of times, you're in a family situation before you get to crisis. What are some of the signs that family members, friends can recognize to identify that we have something more than just an urgent desire? We really have a problem.
Yeah, well, opioids is really, it's, you can't live without it, right? It's something where you're starting to see some lack of sleep. A lot of times there's a lot of theft involved, stealing, they're stealing to get the drugs. They don't have money, signs of, they're isolating. You'll see a lot of signs of isolation. The peers, look at who they're hanging with, right? Most of the time, someone's using opiates, they hang with other people who are using opiates. And so there are a lot of signs that you can really just pay attention to be able to say, wait, this kid is, if you're an involved parent, you're gonna see it, or an adult, right? I mean, as a husband or wife, you see changes in behavior that you don't recognize. So, you'll see the signs, believe me, especially with opioids. Alcoholism and marijuana different, but when you start to use opioids, crack, things like that, you're definitely gonna see it. You're gonna see it. You're gonna notice it.
So we have a terminology that you can be a functioning alcoholic. I don't know what that means.
That makes no sense.
Right.
It's an oxymoron.
Right. That's a term that's used out there. There's no such thing as a functioning alcoholic. There's no such thing as because I may be functioning at work, but my home life is a mess. Right? I may be functioning in one area of my life, but every other area is falling apart. So there's no such thing as function in anything. That's a term that's used out in the world, but in the medical field, that's not.
That's a safety net for them out there who think it's okay.
Right. No, there's no such thing.
In the area where that part of your life is, it's used in that part of the area where your life is good. Because if you can come to work, you show up to work every day, and you can get through the day and even do the bare minimum, but you're an alcoholic, everybody at work says you're a functioning alcoholic. Why? Because they know you're an alcoholic and you're doing just the basics of the job. I don't know what your home life is and I don't care.
Right.
I'm getting what I need from you, so I hear what he's saying. And having worked with those so-called functioning alcoholics, and eventually they're not any longer.
Right.
And we've seen it.
Mhm.
You can get help, and if you continue that you don't really want it or you're not ready for it at that time, you'll go from a functioning alcoholic to just an alcoholic.
Right, because I'm functioning in one area, so I may be able to go to work and function, but by the time I get home, I'm passed out and I'm no good to my family.
Yeah.
Right, so that's just, and that's in the addiction. Right, I mean, we're talking about substance, when we're talking about on the substance side, alcohol, drugs, marijuana, anything, there's no such thing as functioning. So we're gonna take that off the table.
It's a safety net
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
Now, when you sit back and you look at opiates, it's really funny because I grew up in an era where it was heroin.
He just needs the microphone.
Okay.
I grew up in an era where there was just heroin. The pills wasn't really prevalent like they are now. And in the last 15 years, we were talking again, when they came up with the Oxycontin, they first came up with the Oxy, and it was specifically targeted for people with terminal pain. So I'm a pharmaceutical rep, and I'm gonna go to my doctor's office, and I'm gonna send down, tell my doctor, if you prescribe this medication, I'm gonna send you and your family on a 3-week vacation to Mexico, all expense paid. Of course, you're gonna start doing it because you get the 3-week vacation. But at the other end, you don't see the damage that you're doing because you're too busy focusing on what you're getting for you. And we see a lot of times people are leaving a doctor's office and they're got a prescription for 30 Percocets. Go back and now the doctor says, well, I'm not gonna give you any more. So now what do? How am I gonna get my needs met? I either go farm shopping, go from pharmacy to pharmacy, or doctor to doctor, or I go out on the street and I'm gonna get the heroin that's out on the street. And by that time, it's too late. It's too late.
And I can definitely speak to that. And the doctors some doctors are doing a little better job at it. And now because of those situations, there are a lot of guardrails put in place. But just one of my great friends, he had surgery. And I swear the nurse asked him 4 times, did he want, and it was the Percocet. Did you want, and he said, no, I'll take extra strength Tylenol. And he has a predisposition to addiction. So he was like, he's been in recovery a long time. He's like, no, I don't want it. And when I tell you this nurse 4 times asked this man, and the 4th time he said, finally, listen, I don't want anything that's gonna be moved off, and I'll take it. But they're still pushing it. They really are. And so, there has to be education on the doctor side, the nurse side. I mean, there are harmful effects of this stuff. And then they're not asking, if I do have a predisposition to addiction, why are you asking, or do we ask have you had this? And guess what? If I do have a predisposition to addiction and I want it, guess what? Yeah, I want it. Right? I'm not going to tell you the truth because I'm searching for something. And so, again, when we look at addiction, the disease of addiction, and it is a disease, right? We have to really I love what he said, we have to treat the person, right? We have to, and again, we can't do it at the cost of ourselves. And the cost, it's astronomical. The money that the insurance companies are shelling out now to treat it. It's a lot of money. And so, again, when we're looking at the disease of addiction, whether it's opioids, alcohol, and, I think alcohol kills more people than anybody, it just does it differently. We really have to look at, the whole person, the situation, the family, and getting them into treatment. When I'm homeless and I don't have any need, it's gonna be real tough. Right, dealing with the homeless population, we've done it. I've done some research. I went out to Atlanta, and we've seen it. It's real, and it's such a heavy spirit to pull them out because they want to come. They're happy for whatever reason, You know, we tell them don't come home and be homeless. Think about how many people you sent to prison. I had one of my brothers who's been a correction officer for I think he just finished his 27th year. He said, do you know how many repeat offenders I have? Because that's my conditioning. All right, so we're dealing with conditioning. You know, they go out and come right back in because they have nothing else. And so it's a big challenge.
One of the biggest problems that we have, I hate this one. One of the biggest problems that we have is comprehensive treatment. And the young lady talked about Trinitas, and there's not a lot of detoxes that are out anymore. Managed care basically destroyed it. Sunrise House was one of the greatest programs around. Gone. Passaic Beth Israel was a detox. The only detox that I know that's still standing right now that could take 65 people is Bergen Regional.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes you forever to get in there. There used to be programs in Jersey City. Jersey City Medical Center had a detox. Meadowlands had a detox. There was programs. Yeah, Turning Point used to be in Essex County. Now everything is gone. Everything is drying up because managed care, and more times than not, when you go to these treatment programs, not all of them are good treatment programs. Right?
Cash cows.
Yeah, and basically, you know, they're there for the money. They're not there for the treatment. And again, if I'm seeking treatment, I want someone to see me. Don't see me as a dollar bill. See me as a person and respect me. No matter how dirty I am, no matter how smelly I am, still respect me as a person and help me learn how to respect myself all over again, which is the hardest thing in the world to do.
So since we do have a non-existent of these treatment programs, what roles can faith-based institutions, can schools, can parents play in making sure we eradicate this issue?
I mean, we're doing it at Family Healing Center. I mean, we are, you know, really, we do a lot of wraparound services. We created a nonprofit for people who cannot afford treatment, that we can get them in. They have to want it though. And, you know, I mean, it's something that it has to be boots on the ground. And you gotta have, the thing with the faith-based community, they're starting to come around a lot. But, you know, they're still looking at, especially our people are still looking at it as a big bad boogeyman, right? And so really, even mental health is something that is finally starting to come around to the faith-based communities in our neighborhoods, without it being a big bad boogeyman, without it being something that, you know what, we just had an opioid person walk in our congregation. You know, are we shutting them? Are we stopping them at the door? You know, having the programs to be able to be put in place. Like for us, you know, I go to Christ Church, we have a care center, right? We have that. Some of these churches aren't equipped to have the resources to do it. And so really it depends on the type of church, the resources that these churches have, these faith-based communities, working with the police departments, and coming alongside them, because that's what the church is supposed to do, all right? But again, a lot of them are just ill-equipped to handle it.
You know, you also, again, we talk about that stigma that's attached to it, and this is what we deal with a lot. Not in my neighborhood. I don't want this treatment facility in my neighborhood. But wait a minute, these are your kids, all right? These are your kids, but you don't want them to have treatment in your neighborhood. Where are we supposed to send them? There's no place to send them, so we're gonna meet them where they are. One of the questions I asked, so you have a kid coming to school, 12, 13 years old, he hasn't eaten in the last couple of days. He really has no place to lay his head because both of his parents are addicted. How are you gonna recognize that when he comes to school? How are you gonna address that? He's being bullied. Other kids are picking on him because of the way he looks. How do you address that? And then what happens when he starts looking for ways to self-medicate that pain? Then we have a problem.
So the stigma around opioid addiction and all addictions is still very strong in our community. Outside of really being at bare bottom, how do you avoid that?
Well, I took
Same thing applies to you. Come on, you got good stuff to say. I'll just get to you.
I took a class on stigma reduction training, And it teaches your family members and the people in your community how to respond to you. Like you asked, the signs to be aware of. It teaches you the signs to look for. And a lot of times people have to recognize that there is a problem and stop turning their head, looking the other way. And like they said too, the stigma around it. It could be anybody. It doesn't discriminate against class, race, gender, sexual orientation, anything. Faith, whatever. It could be anybody. And people have to understand that first, that it could be you, it could be me, it could be my child. You don't know how it's gonna affect you. So when you get rid of that stigma, then you can open up your eyes and be aware and be able to help them. And just like the gentleman said, and look at me as a person. Don't look at me as what you see because I'm dirty or because I may not be sober today. But I'm still a person, and I didn't get this way overnight, and something happened. I didn't wake up and say, I wanted to be a drug addict today. I wanted to be an alcoholic today. So let's get to the problem of what's causing you to act out in these behaviors. And we know it's a disease, but we have to still address it. We have to treat the disease just like we treat cancer, right? Just like we treat high blood pressure. You take medicine for it, and you may change your diet and you exercise and stuff like that. It's the same thing. It's a disease, and we have to learn how to treat it.
I do want to speak to this too, and you're absolutely right. The thing with addiction is it is such a stigma, because when I have cancer, I want to get treated, right? But with addiction, sometimes they want treatment, but they don't know how to get it, right? Or they want it, but that thing has such a hold on them that it keeps drawing them back. And so that's the only thing with addiction that we see, is addiction has such a grip, right? When someone has cancer, we go treat it, they're loved, they're whatever. We have to do the same thing with it, But again, it's how do we love the unlovable? And the unlovable is not the person, right? And that's why I keep going back to the addiction, not the person, right? And that's what we do at my center, is we continue to focus on the addiction. The person is a sweetheart. How many of us know an alcoholic that, when they're the nicest person in the world, or a heroin addict, or whoever, but as soon as they put that stuff in them, they become monsters, right? It's not the person, right? It's the addiction. And until we eradicate addiction, which I don't think will ever happen, but what we can do is we just have to be so aware of it, and destigmatize it. I destigmatize it on many levels. I mean, just from being a black man going to therapy, right? How many of brothers don't want to go to therapy? Period. Right? I'm going into churches and just saying, listen, it's okay to get help. Right? I mean, so it is such the big bad boogeyman. And again, we talk about addiction. Yeah, I got a problem, and to admit that I have a problem to something is really hard. And so again, we're talking about layers. Right? With addiction, there are multi-layers, right? We're talking about, environment, right? We're talking about predispositions. We got so much to deal with that we'll be doing this for a long time. But there is hope. I don't ever want to say like we're hopeless, right? But when it comes to treatment, you gotta want it. Right? You gotta want it. You gotta want it. And sometimes we can help you want it. We can say, you look at your family. Let's look at what's going on. Look at you're destroying your family, but you can't. I remember one of my great therapists. He's Bill Powers, one of my guys, and I heard him yelling at a guy who was messing his family up. Alcoholism, just dealing with alcoholism. And I said to him, because I know a lot of alcohol, I said, you can't scare an alcoholic. You can't tell him, right? You got to get somebody to come in here and tell them their story. You got to get one. And the great thing about addiction is the best people who deal with addiction are people who come through it themselves, right? Everybody who's on my team who is in that field, LCADCs, LPCs, LECs, they've had addiction treatment. Most of my team they've been in recovery for over 30, 35 years. So they're able to speak to addiction. I can't treat addiction if I've never been through addiction. I just can't. Right? So most people have to understand it because it's one addict helping another. Right? So we can handle with every clinical term, we can do those things. But if I ain't never felt addiction, I don't know what that is. So
What's the role of a family member in trying to support someone who needs treatment?
Same, really, again, I think we talked about it, being there, not rescuing. We tell family members all the time, you can't save this person.
But if you're somebody, I'm the mother. It's my son.
I hear you.
It's my only son.
Don't become an enabler.
Right?
Just
Yeah.
to
You
say,
must
know the
Yeah.
difference between
You-
loving your son and enabling your son.
Yes. Okay.
So that's exactly what I wanted to get to.
Right.
And not to interrupt, but I'll share my personal story because my father was a heroin addict and died several years ago. And my grandmother, he lived with her and she enabled him. We talked about this. Look, the TV's gone. Where do you think it went? And why is it okay? And so when you live those experiences and you see the enablement, even as another family member, that's why I'm saying, what is the role of the family member?
So again, not to enable, to go get your own help. There are a lot of programs out here for parents. There are a lot of programs out here for children of addicts and alcoholics. There are programs out here that you can go get help. And we always tell the parent, we focus on the whole family. So if we have somebody in treatment, we're dealing with the whole family. And we're definitely dealing with that mother, and it's usually the mother trying to rescue their sons. And we're saying you can't. I don't care what you do, you cannot rescue this boy, right? You can't, or a mother trying to rescue or a daughter, you can't, right? And we lay it to them straight out. Here are your 4 options: death, jail, institutions, or recovery. All right. Now a lot of them have already come out of some institution, whether it's been a treatment facility or something. Some of them have already come out of jail, right? So. And we've seen death, right? We've seen it, right? Unfortunately, beautiful young lady. I'm talking about absolutely gorgeous. Couldn't get it. Last October, we got a call. You've been trying to treat her since she was 17. Made it to 25. Family devastated, right? That's the ugly side of this, right? So, it has to be, when we're dealing with the parents, when we're dealing with the family members, you gotta take your hands off, you gotta trust the treatment. You can't rescue, you can't save, you can pray. I always say that. You can't do that. But it really needs to be, and we have to be real with our parents, and that's on all sides.
Because sometimes parents are enabling because I think they feel like they contributed to it. So they trying to do everything that they can to rescue the child instead of just a way of helping the child is stepping back and letting the child fall and then helping them get up. But because they feel like they played a role somewhere, and sometimes they did play a role in it, then that forces them to look at themselves too, and that's hard for them to do.
I've dealt with addiction within the family, and you're a drug and alcohol counselor, why don't you help him? And I was like, excuse me, do me a favor, shut your mouth, and I'm gonna do what I know I need to do. I need to back up, because I'm too close. I can't help them. Someone else has to help them, because maybe they see me and they're gonna try to play on my kindness or my vulnerability. The best thing I could do is pass you over to somebody else that can help you. I can't help you. Even though I love you to death, but I love you from over here. And when you're ready, when you've gotten some time up under your belt, then we can sit down and have a conversation. But right now, you need to go with somebody else that can help you. I can't help you. And I'm honest enough to say that.
I experienced that with a family member too. My mother is an enabler of my sister. And my sister called me one day saying that she wanted to kill herself, and I did not believe her. So I called 911 and I sent them to where she was or whatever. her and my mother felt like I should have come. I don't feel like I should have come because, like you said, they try to play on your emotions and your vulnerability. And when you do tell them things that you know from working in the field, they don't listen anyway. And then it's like, well, you work in the field, why can't you help them? You don't listen to me, so I have to protect my peace and let you figure this out on your own, and you gotta figure it out with somebody that's not emotionally connected to you.
It takes a long time to achieve that peace within yourself. It takes a long time, and you don't want anyone to take it from you. And I tell them all the time, if you want that peace within yourself somewhere along, you're gonna have to sit in that uncomfortability and deal with it. You're gonna have to sit there and deal with it. And most people don't wanna deal with it, they wanna run.
All right, so we've talked about the increase in the epidemic. We've talked about some policing and practices so that we can reduce that. We've also talked about treating the individual and some different programs that are available. We've talked about trying to support the family through the addict's struggles as well, because what we know is that that's very difficult. We've talked about the schools, we've talked about faith-based institutions and their support. An addict is an addict that overcomes their disease. Is there any time that you can say, I've heard you talk about an 8-week program, a 6-week program, a 16-week program. How many times should I expect to have to go through that program to become healed?
As many times as it takes. I remember I came to years ago, my God, this was early in my career, I came to a program down here, ran by a guy by the name of Ed Man.
I know it.
Right? And we had went to the Teen Challenge and I heard the great Ernie Shavers talking. And he was thundering and everything he said was so profound. When you get sick and tired of being 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 sick and tired, you're gonna do something about it. And that's what has to happen. I hear people all the time talk about, I'm tired of doing this, I'm tired of doing that. Don't tell me what you're tired of doing, show me what you're tired of. I start doing something, put some action behind the words. And I tell people sometimes you need to shut the hell up and just do some work. And most people don't wanna do the work because that's what it is, it's about work. And recovery is hard. It's real hard, and the person that you have to say no to sometimes, more times than not, is yourself. Looking in that mirror is the hardest thing in the world to do, because that mirror does not lie, and we don't like dealing with the truth sometimes. So that's basically what we have to do. We have to learn to deal with the truth and sit in that uncomfortable feeling sometimes to get better.
I have a quote written on my mirror. It says, "What you are not changing, you are choosing."
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I think is important, especially when you're a family member of someone who is going through the addiction, is you repeatedly see them fail. And you get tired, but you have to continue to be supportive. So is that an opportunity for them to get some additional treatment or services?
I changed that word because I don't like the word fail.
Okay.
Failing is not doing anything. If I go to a treatment program and I come back out and I use again, I learned something, I'm just not using what I learned. And maybe I need to relearn it again. And I keep relearning it until it starts to stick. But there's no such thing as a failure, right? And the moment you tell someone they fail, then they start to buy into that because they already bought into that from the beginning.
I have a brother that's, he's heavily addicted. And my father died trying to save this guy. And he's still out there, right? Lost his mother, but we had different mothers, the same father. Lost his mom, lost his dad, and we thought he might get it together, and he hasn't, right? And been in many jail cells, many things, and a lot of their family, the sisters and brothers, oh, what are we gonna do with him, right? And I always tell them, until he's ready, there's nothing we can do with him, right? You have to be ready. Again, when it comes to addiction, it's something that, you know what, you talk about surrender, you have to surrender. You have to surrender to the disease. Right? You know, again, when we talk about, I mean, you've been addiction treatment, I haven't seen anybody yet just say, you know what, I wasn't ready. They got sober, right? And that's what we're talking about, living a sober life, whether, you know, And so addiction, when we look at it, there's no cookie cut to this. Right? I can't go to school, study a book, and say, "Oh, this is how we deal with it," right? Because we're dealing with layers and layers of trauma, layers of we talk about this in therapy. Nature and nurture, right? Again, if my mama was an addict and my father was an addict and my grandmother was 9 times out of 10, there's some predisposition there to me becoming an addict, right? And so, in our family it was alcohol, right? There was addiction, we dealt with it, right? Some people say we just ain't gonna drink, right? I know when I put alcohol in me, I do crazy stuff. So guess what? I hadn't drink in 20 years because I just said this is not my life, right? And so I don't want to be addicted, right? And so we have to already look at what these things are and have those real conversations. But a parent, I would tell parents, children, you can't save nobody. Only God can do that. That's it. You can't. And we go crazy trying, right? We spend all our money trying, right? Grandma tried, did it work? No, right? And we have to be real about that.
Well, I'll share. I come from my father's side of a family that was addicted to alcohol and drugs. My mother moved me away early enough. I was in, what's it called, AA for children, Analon, right? I did that. What I think saved me was my faith that I learned early on, because I saw a lot in my family. So I have two uncles and a father, and they're all dead, all under the age of 65. One uncle died still using drugs in the hospital. The other was at Beth Israel, Suboxone, to me, still doing drugs. And my father, he called me when I was he died in 2017. So he called me in 2015, 16 and said, I'm ready to surrender and stop alcohol and drugs. And because of my faith, I remember when I was 15 years old, I asked my aunt to take me to North Carolina to see my father because it was weighing on me and I couldn't sleep. And my mother would say, just pray, just pray, just pray. So she took me to North Carolina and I said, let's go, Dad, we're going to the hospital. I went to the hospital and they, did the workup on him and they told him you have to go to a clinic. You have to go get sober. And he says, now my dad, he never really had a job, but that time he had a job and he says, well, I can't, I have to go to work. And I let go. Like after that, and he didn't want to go, I let go of it, and I really believe that's what led me to social work, is because I wanted to help those that wanted to help themselves. I think I did very well in a psych hospital because I did meet people where they were. I followed, I paid attention, I was patient-centered. And so I was successful at discharging patients because of that. My father was just there, someone I just couldn't help until 2015, 16 when he called me and said, I need your help. So I said, okay, come, but if you come, you're gonna follow my rules. This is what you have to do. And he did, he came, he was clean, then we found out he had cancer in his throat, and then he died. So I do understand. I'm thankful that I allowed my faith to take over and not continue to burden me at the age of 15 when I realized I can take him to the hospital, he can hear that he needs to go and get help, but if he doesn't do that, I can't make it happen. And I really, really let go, and I channeled it into my profession and the work that I do. I volunteered at the hospitals. I put all of my energy in helping people that wanted the help. So I just wanted to share that.
Do we have any questions, statements, comments?
Oh, I do have one more thing that I wanted to say in terms of stigma. I also think changing the language instead of addict,
Yeah, we say
Right.
substance use.
that's important too, because I just wanted to
Yeah, I
add that.
disagree. I don't
Okay,
think they
I'm
say
just
that.
gonna say
I think we've gotten soft. I think we've gotten soft. Because you know, when we start changing the language, we make it soft, all right? And I think that, and
It
this
creates
is
a
me.
space, it creates a space.
But that space is killing more people than helping them. I just feel that way. And that's just, you know, I feel like, let's deal with it,
But
right?
if you keep calling somebody an addict.
Well, no, I don't call a person an addict. I'm saying.
that's what I'm saying.
Right, no, I don't call you an addict. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about, when we talk about the addict, we're talking about the disease of addiction. Let's call addiction addiction.
Addiction
Right,
is addiction.
right, not substance use disorder, it's an addiction. All right, let's be real, all right? Because when we start doing that, again, we did that for the other.
But that's two different things. There is an addiction, but to label me as an
No, I'm not doing that. We
That's
don't
what
do
I'm
that. Okay, no,
referencing.
no,
That's
we
what
don't
I'm
do that. No,
referencing.
we don't do
Okay.
that. No, okay.
It's like saying
Yeah.
the R word and now,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
the C word instead of mental.
No,
ill.
yeah, no, right, no. We're not calling you an addict, but we are saying, listen, you have addiction. You are,
No,
right.
absolutely.
Right.
Okay,
Can't
all right,
change
all right,
that.
okay, all right, we're on the same page.
We're on the
All right.
In 2012, I received a call from my mentor who basically guided me when I came into the field. And she said, Bill, I need your help. And I said, what's wrong? She said, I need someone with your background up here at Greystone. And I said, well, I said, the crazy hospital. And she said, yeah, the crazy hospital. And so when I went there, I work on the forensic floor. So everyone that's on my floor is adjudicated. It committed a crime, but they've been found not guilty by reason of insanity or what mental defect or whatever. And when I got there, I came in with the mindset that I'm gonna change them. I'm gonna force them to change. And I had this one patient that every time I'm not gonna be in a room with them addicts. I don't wanna be in a room with them drug addicts, them damn people. I'm not like them. And he taught me how to help him. Because see, I had to help him understand the language change, right? I don't care what you call yourself. You can call yourself the butler, the pope. I don't care what you call yourself, but you are what you are. And if you don't like what you are and you want to change, you're gonna have to do the work of change. My job is, I love what we do. I love helping people. That's the best job. And when you look at it, the greatest gift that one man can give to another man is the gift of service. I love what I do. I love the people that I work with. I don't like them a lot of days, but I love them. The reason why I love them because I learned to love myself. Because the only difference between me and them is that they're in there and I'm out here. Because the roles can be easily reversed. And so I have to remember that, who am I to come down on them? And I remember when we used to do outreach out in the community years ago, and we would go out to the women that were out there selling their bodies. And we would provide them counseling, we would provide them with condoms, we would provide them coffee, sandwiches, and just the air. And this was when I was dealing with a lot of domestic violence. And I would sit and listen to them. And once I developed the listening skills, it became a lot easier. Because see, I'm not in the business of judging. I'm in the business of listening and offering help. I can't save you. I can help you learn how to save yourself. But you're gonna do the work, because I'm lazy. You're gonna do the work.
We have a question from Mr. Watkins, who is the Director of
Social services.
Social Services
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Linden. So we should have had you up here.
Not exactly.
Next time.
Yeah. I just wanted to know what your opinion is in the panel, basically, of all the, I guess, the marijuana, I guess, and some of the other opportunities people have to, the access to substances right now, people have access to, whether that's a good thing, bad thing, how they feel about that, and what the trend is going to be like in the future, because we've seen things from the past. Now we see how things are going to be looking towards the future. So, what's your opinion on that?
When the discussion on legalization of marijuana was being had, there was no drug and alcohol counselor, no professionals in our feel in that room. And it's all about profit. And I remember when they were going through it in New York City, Mayor Adams was talking about the amount of money that they were making. Governor Murphy was talking about the $50 million that they were gonna be making, and it's all about the money. So we're focusing on the money. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna focus on the money. But we're not gonna pay attention to the people that are injured. And because what we're doing is we're introducing them to, and out there in the community, there's all these here places that are popping up that's selling marijuana. And now you got all these kids that, and we're telling them that it's okay to smoke weed. It's okay. And so they're smoking weed. Now what happens when that weed doesn't give them the bump that they need? They're gonna look for something bigger and better. And so what we're doing is we're introducing a drug-seeking behavior. That's what I call it, drug-seeking behavior. We legalized it. And everywhere you go, you see it on TV, this don't work, take a pill. But look at the side effects. And I've not seen a commercial, I'm waiting for this commercial where they talk about addiction. Let's do heroin. Heroin will do this, but look at all the side effects of heroin. They're not gonna put that commercial out there. They have a telethon for cerebral palsy, they talk about heart disease, all this, but you don't see anyone really talking about addiction and how it affects everybody. Everybody's affected. It does not discriminate. It doesn't discriminate, and ultimately it kills.
Yeah, I went to a Halloween party. It was in Upper Montclair, matter of fact, beautiful home.
Yeah.
It was so nice, and literally there was dressed up as, you know, at the football game, and you have the snacks.
Mm-hmm.
She was walking around. She had gummies, and now it's a new thing, mushrooms.
Yeah, shrooms.
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 I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. So,
I mean, it's terrible. I mean, you know, and the thing is, and when we're talking about I live in Springfield, and I'm on the borderline Springfield and Millburn. And on Springfield Avenue, we're talking about between Maplewood, Springfield, and Millburn, there are 5 dispensaries.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, we're not at them. We're not, right? The thing about the weed is, one of my great friends, he works in the East Orange School District, and he's the athletic director. And I was at a football game with him one day, and at the end of the game, he showed me a bag like that, about that size, and there was nothing but weed in there. And I was like, what? He said, because we take it at the gate. The thing is, these kids don't realize it's like alcohol, right? It's 21, but that's one of the contracts we have. We get more kids to come to our center behind weed and vaping than ever before, and they're like, but it's legal. But it's not legal for you. You gotta be 21, right? And it's being promoted as it's legal, and these underdeveloped kids, right, frontal lobe, not developed anything, think that it's legal. And it's not.
and they're getting it from the streets.
And they get what?
Fentanyl.
Right, they're getting it from, and they're getting it from, just all I gotta do is stand outside of a dispensary and say,
Like alcohol.
right, just like alcohol, right? And so to me, the weed is, and it's making them dumber. I mean, really, it really is.
The other part that's really not talked about is that people don't realize marijuana is an hallucinogen.
Right.
And we're educating them now, in that a lot of times you might be predisposed to a mental illness, and that marijuana just might be that key that opens that lock to that door.
Yeah, I've seen you.
And that's what we're dealing with. And the schizophrenia, it gives you the same effects of schizophrenia. It makes you hallucinate, makes you paranoid, and they think it's fun and games. It's fun and games now, but it ain't fun and games later on. And you see them, and I definitely see them. I see them all the time. Oh, I get them in, go before the judge. What happened? Oh, I smoked a joint and I wind up killing my whole family. And so now you're going to spend the rest of your life in an institution, and you're going to have to deal with this, but you don't want to talk about it. And you don't want to be labeled as an addict. I'm not labeling you as an addict. My job is to educate you. Sit your butt down in the chair and listen. That's all you gotta do, sit in the chair. Your name is already, you earn the right to be in that chair. Simple.
The legalization of it, it was packaged to us as many things, that it would stop the incarceration of black and brown. That was one of the biggest draws that, for one part of the community to get on board with it. When you look at it now, all these dispensaries, it's about all the money that can come in. However, those dispensaries are still businesses. So the marijuana, the cannabis that they're selling is expensive. So those who can't afford that, or where are they getting it from again? They're getting it back on the street corners and, as we said, laced with whatever. And these kids, guess what? They're not getting it from the dispensary because they can't
Afford it.
So they are getting it from the street, which is laced with whatever. And I will be as frank as I can possibly be and as open as I can possibly be. When that hit the ballot, I voted for it. I'm not speaking for the Linden Police Department right now. Please note, I'm speaking for myself, because I had seen, in my experience in my years on, I've seen the people that we were locking up. We weren't locking up cartel leaders. We weren't locking up, the people that are importing it. We were locking up somebody who was buying sneakers with the money from his drug sales. Those were the people we were locking up. And a lot of times those people looked like me. And it was, okay, this other poison is getting sold, and guess what? We in society have accepted it, that alcohol, kills a whole lot of people. It is a poison that we have adulterated to make it ingestible.
That you can function with, but it's killing you.
Yeah, you ain't really functioning.
Right, but you going to work, but it's killing you.
Hey, I worked in Linden. You don't know how many DUIs I've had within my entire career. So I looked at it at that point. Looking at it with my other hat, I think we were stuck between a rock and a hard place. Because guess what? People are going to get it. They're going to get it. One of the things for the school kids, I was in a class one day and another officer from another department says to me, he says, did you realize when this epidemic started with opioids again? And he was like, he had been looking into it, and it coincided with the death of the DARE program. And he says, look at it. And I was like, started doing the math, going back, and I'm like, you got a point there. The death of the DARE program, and they always would say, certain people would say, guess what, DARE doesn't work. And my question was, how are you measuring that? If you're measuring that, we're gonna keep everybody off of drugs and alcohol. I go, you were thinking of La La Land. You were thinking of unicorns and lollipops. Not getting that. Now, what I'm telling you is, at 5th grade, when these kids are starting to formulate their opinions, starting to formulate who they were, they had contact with a police officer. I was one of those DARE officers. Throughout my career, my DARE students would see me on the street corner. Even if I was putting handcuffs on someone, run up to me and be hugging me, and I'm like, you might want to let go of my leg. I'm locking somebody up right now. But now my DARE students are all adults, hardworking, and families of their own. But they had that connection with law enforcement. They had that connection with what we were telling them about it. And luckily DARE, it still exists, but not as big as it used to be, because they'd be mad. I talked about staying away from drugs. Alcohol until you're 21, because I wasn't going to be a hypocrite and tell them, no alcohol, and I know, guess
And
what?
when you're in the military and you're on base at 18, it's a different story.
I'm not talking to them. Because I know they're going to get it. So a lot of the programs that we removed from the schools, we just started Don't get mad, it's another LEAD program, but it's LEAD for juveniles. And it's basically putting law enforcement back into the schools, into the elementary schools in 5th grade, and teaching them about drugs, alcohol, and steering away. I'm not certified in that program. By that time, I was already at my current rank. But getting back in, letting them know what they may face at an early age where they're still impressionable. They haven't made up their mind that we as police are good guy or bad guy. Right now, we're still just good guy. You know,
I want to be one of you.
exactly. They all want, guess what? That's what it is, and we have to get back into those schools.
So we were talking about some different things that we can do to forge that gap and create a different opinion of law enforcement. In Linden, do you all have the junior academy in the summer for the children?
Yes, 2017, when I was in charge of the Juvenile Aid Bureau, one of my detectives came up and he says, hey, you know, Cranford does a youth academy. And he had been a dispatcher in Cranford. And I says, okay. I says, well, what do you want to do? He tells me, and I send one of my detectives to Woodbridge and one to Cranford. I said, bring back what they have. I says, I'll find the money. We'll get the money. We'll do whatever we need to do. We bought, by the time that year, while we audited their programs, the year went, trying to garner the funds, the budget, I got promoted to captain. So I never saw it come to fruition under my command, but Lieutenant John Mekovitz, who's the JAB supervisor right now, ran the first Linden Youth Police Academy. And they do it every year. They cap it usually about 30 students, and they go for middle school. But after you age out, they allow you to come back and be a mentor, which is absolutely fantastic. You have the mentors that went through the program, and the ROTC at the high school actually comes back to be almost like junior drill instructors for them. So they're being led by their peers, and they're paying it forward. So it's fantastic program.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Anyone in the audience have any questions, comments? So I just want to take this opportunity to thank each of you, Mr. Sapp, Captain, Malik, Talisa, for your stand-in. We kind of predicted this though, didn't we? Yes.
I have one more thing.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Everybody was talking about stigma, and I was just like, I was getting kind of giddy because the Linden Police Department right now is working with the mayor's office, mayor's chief of staff, Tyra. What we're trying to do is, and it's a big thing for me, is we want to make Linden a stigma-free zone. And I only have about a year to get that done before I'm retired, and you know, then they'll be on their own. But we're trying to get that done, not just for mental health, but you know, also those that are drug addicted or addiction, period. So that's something that we're striving for. I was actually going to be talking to Lisa later on about that as well. Maybe we need to talk to Tracy to see what type of funds are available because we missed the grant. We did not get the grant that was out there.
We can make it happen, I'm sure.
So again, just wanted to thank all of our panelists for coming and joining us in this conversation so that we can reduce the incidence of addiction in the city of Linden. But what we have to be honest with is that these are very hard conversations. And unfortunately, the people who need to hear this information are the people that are very, very resistant in coming to these types of conversations. So Talisa and I are going to brainstorm. We're going to contact you all as well. And if the people aren't willing to come, I believe you go to the people. And so with that, we will rethink this approach. Maybe we go to different houses of worships. Maybe we go to different community centers or maybe even some of our other housing facilities and speak to the people. It may not be a 2-hour program, maybe it's something different, but we need to get this information to the public. So this is something that we are committed to doing. We want to help those who are willing to receive the help. So again, thank you all for coming and supporting our event this evening. I hope this information was helpful and that it is something that you can take back and share with others, because each one has to teach one, right? And we are only going to eradicate this if we all come together. Any silent last words, final last words? That does it for everyone? All right, thank you so very much for all of your participation. Thank you.
We're looking at right now a crisis in New Jersey, period. I just use New Jersey, where we have so many of these young kids that are getting involved in things they have no idea what the outcome is going to be. Our job is to save them, but they have to work with us. They have to be willing to listen. It's not going to get any better until they do the work. And we see. I live in Patterson, so I see this every single day. And I tell any of the kids in my neighborhood, if you need someone to talk to, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm not going to give you advice. I'm not going to judge you. I'm just going to listen. And we need to listen to them and ask them how can we help them, which makes our job a lot easier, because when we start asking them, we start interesting them, and then they're going to start listening because they're going to say somebody cares.
It's so important that we bring awareness to what's going on, because a lot of people are walking around and don't even understand it, because if it's not happening to me, you know, it's not happening. And so just bringing the awareness to people, letting them know that these type of events are available so that we can get out, we can talk, we can share how to help people if it may hit home one day. And so we always want to just be aware of what's going on. And these type of events in the community, they bring awareness, they bring knowledge, they start to help you understand, you know, it may be a family member that hits one day. So just having that knowledge and having that awareness to be able to come out and communicate and share what's going on from a professional standpoint is always important.
So the Linden Opioid Crisis Initiative is so that we can minimize the impact of addiction in our community. And what we have seen based on the statistics is an increase in opioid addiction, as well as an increase in the deaths in our community residents. And so what we want to be able to do is give people the resources and the information so that we can lessen the impact of this disease. What we are clear is that this is a disease. And so we want people to understand that there is treatment, there is help, and that there is hope. So certainly what we want to do is lessen the impact. For me specifically, I think that this needs to start with our youth and making sure we go into the schools and into the community and making sure that our children understand the dangers of opioid addiction and abuse. Once we are able to educate them and get them to understand that they don't even need to utilize drugs or of any sort, that there are other solutions out there to deal with whatever issues and or concerns that they have, I think we will make our initiative stronger. And so my goal is to make sure that we're present, that people know that we exist, and that people know that there's help available.